This conference is being recorded.
Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to Creating Your Own Personalized Media List. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, great.
Yes.
So glad you're on the line. I am going to mute the line because I know that some of you are on cell phones, and I want to, for the recording, just make sure we don't have any of those. Hold on a second. I have to figure this out. Okay, there we go. Now you guys can hear me, but I can't hear you. Sorry about that. But my name is Beth Caldwell, and I am here to talk to you tonight about creating your own personalized media list. Now this is just a little piece of a workshop that I do called Creating a Publicity Plan for Your Business. That's about a 90-minute workshop, and this little piece is just about 15 or 20 minutes. But it's a really good thing to have when you are getting ready to begin a media plan. I've owned a public relations firm for a little over 4 years, and it's grown and grown and grown over the years. And I think the reason that any business grows is because you love what you do and you work really well with your clients. I specialize at working with authors and entrepreneurs. And a lot of people see my name and they see that my business is growing. And sometimes I get invited to join special committees, or I get invited to fundraisings. And you know what they really want is they really want access to my list. And people have this idea that I have this massive media list. But the truth is, I really don't. I'm a very non-traditional public relations firm. I work with very small companies, authors, coaches, entrepreneurs, many service-oriented people. And so for each of my clients, each of them have their own personalized media list. So I don't have a big, massive national and international list. I have a lot of little lists that have been designed specifically for those clients. Excuse me. Anyway, I want you to begin. I hope that you all have a pen and paper right in front of you, and if you don't, hopefully you have your computer open and you'll be able to take notes. Because what I hope to do tonight is to inspire you to a lot of ideas that maybe you haven't thought about before when creating your media list. Now, after you get your media list started, we can move into getting a plan started. But like I said, I thought it would be really neat to just do like a little mini workshop on just one piece. So often, I will give my workshop on creating a publicity plan. And at the end of the workshop, I look out and I see people that are just, they're stunned. I've stunned them. I've overwhelmed them. They don't know what to do first. So that's actually what gave me the idea to start this little one. So like I told you, when I work with a client, one of the first things that we do as a piece of their media plan is to create a personalized media list. Now, that is different for each person, and the number is different for each person. It really depends on what you as an individual are looking to accomplish with your media. Now, lately I've been specializing a lot with authors, and authors can be even different. I mean, we have some authors that want to go on the national media tour. They want to be on CNN. They want to be on Good Morning America. They want to be on the Today Show. There's one specific way that you work on getting that type of marketing. But for the most part, the people that I work with are people who already have a professional career, and they've written a book as an added extension to that professional career that they already have, they're already established in. Very much like myself. I'm the author of 3 books, but I own a public relations firm, and I plan to continue being a public relations specialist. The books are just an additional part of my business and a little bit of additional part of what I can offer when I do speaking engagements. So I've written these books because I was really passionate about what I had to say, and I think that those of us who are authors get what I'm saying. You sort of have to get it out. But I didn't do it to quit my job and become a full-time author or speaker. So this is an extension of what I do. It's a tool that can be used to increase your credibility as a person, as a professional, to increase your income, to get you speaking engagements, which you probably were qualified for, but you didn't really cut it against the competition. So that's the kind of publicity that most of the time that I work with for speakers and authors and entrepreneurs. Things have changed with the recent recession and also with the internet. And things aren't done traditionally as they used to be. My goodness, I have to tell you something. Just this week I saw two things that I thought were so interesting coming from my field. One was a couple of weeks ago. I was in Walmart. I admit it, I do shop in Walmart. I have two growing teenagers. And I was in Walmart, and I noticed a big sign right when you walk in the door that Mike Huckabee was going to be at my Walmart to do a book signing on a Saturday morning. Well, that's a kind of non-traditional thing for a big author like that. Really non-traditional, but the truth is, guys, you know this. People are not going to bookstores like they used to. And the second thing that happened to me just yesterday, I was at the grocery store shopping. I do go to our local, we have a market district here, and that's a store that does great with like organic fruits and vegetables. And I went in there to buy some fruits and vegetables and some meats. And when I walked in the store, I actually stopped dead in my tracks. And those of you who know me know that that was a big deal. Martha Stewart is coming to speak at my grocery store. Wow. Now, what does that tell you? And I stood there, and my son said, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, look at this, Martha Stewart, because I thought maybe it was one of Martha Stewart's representatives coming to my grocery store. But it is actually her. She's promoting her new book and her new line of cleaning products. And she's going to be in my grocery store this Friday. And no, I'm not going, by the way, because I'm sure it'll be a madhouse. But she's going to be there, and that's where she's selling her books. And do you know why? Because that's where her people are. They are not in the bookstore. So even the very traditional booksellers are really making some drastic changes. Those of us who are business people, we already knew a long time ago that you don't get great big book sales in a bookstore, that you get your big book sales from where your clients are. So if you have a book about pets, dogs or cats or anything having to do with pets, you're going to be at the Humane Society, the shelter events, the fundraisers that they have. You're going to be at the veterinary hospitals. You're not going to be selling a lot of pet books in a traditional bookstore. It's always great to be in the bookstore, but the people that I work with are really interested in book sales and reaching a lot of people. Let me give you something else. Let's say you've written a book on let me think. I want to say having difficulty sleeping, but nobody writes a book on that. Let's say writing a book on, or maybe somebody does write a book on that, but maybe you're writing a book, specifically for women, and you want it to be helping women to reduce stress. Okay, so let's think about that. So you've written a book specifically targeted to women that has stress-reducing techniques in it. The bookstore is a great place to have that. Where else is a great place to have that? What I was thinking of? Where are these women? They are in the grocery store, the same place where Martha Stewart's people are. But what about even more specific than the grocery store? Are they at the pharmacy of the grocery store? Perhaps they're caregivers. Perhaps they're sick because they're stressed out. So what about being in a pharmacy right at the counter? They do have books there. And that is a place where people do a lot of waiting because they're waiting for their prescription to be filled. What about this? This is a crazy idea, but tell me what you think of this. If you have a chapter in your book about how to get a good night's sleep, what if that book was a free giveaway for everybody who bought a mattress at a mattress store for a week? Can you imagine the publicity that you would get to? You would get to people that would have never, ever, 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 ever heard of you before. So that's a really non-traditional, really out-of-the-box strategy that you can do to promote your book, okay? So you're like, why are you telling me this, Beth? Well, that's what I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about creating your media list. Think about those non-traditional places that you can place your book. I'm going to talk about the list in just one more second, but there's one more thing I want to share with you. A lot of people come to me, authors and non-authors, and they are just bound and determined to get their book reviewed in a magazine or newspaper. I mean, that's their goal. I want to tell you that I've sold almost 6,000 of my books in the past. My book will be out for, it's not even a year old yet. My book came out last July, and I've sold over 6,000 books. My goal is 10,000, and I'm keeping close track on that. I have yet to be reviewed in a newspaper or magazine. Not that I don't want to be reviewed in a newspaper or magazine. It's just that I have not submitted my book. I submit many of them for my clients. Haven't done it for myself yet. But the point is that it's really great and very credible to get reviewed in a newspaper, but it rarely will lead to a tremendous number of sales. So I spent my time in the beginning booking myself speaking engagements so that I could sell my book at my engagements. It definitely is in my plans to have my book reviewed by some great reviewers, and I have a plan for that, but I just haven't done it yet. So I'm not a real good publicity person for myself. But I think we're all like that, aren't we? But anyway, okay, so let's get your pencils out and talk about creating your list. Now, I want to tell you that there is as much as I hate to talk about traditional things, there's a traditional sort of format of how publicity builds on itself. And you need to know that as you create your list, okay? Typically, people do not start out by getting featured on the afternoon television news or on the national news or in a national magazine. Now, that certainly does happen, but that is usually not where they start. So you don't want to begin your list by tapping into all those national things. Like I said, certainly it can happen, but typically it's a process of building your stuff up. How I have had the most luck getting people established articles or established interviews or established features is by getting them written about in a small publication first and then sending that article or that write-up to a larger publication and sort of building it. Because you guys are very much aware of how the media is exploding with the onset of cable, 24-hour news, along with the internet, which allows us constant news feed of news updates and many, many, many news outlets that are always looking for fresh and worthwhile content. Not just sales things, but actually good, worthwhile content to give to their readers. So more people than ever now need our information, and they need quality information, and it's a very competitive world for them because they make their living from their advertising dollars, and people who are paying for advertising now really have a choice of a lot of places to spend their money, unlike 10 years ago where it was pretty much newspaper, magazine, radio, or television. I mean, that was pretty much it other than your billboards or your non-traditional things like sponsoring a business event. But now you just have internet, you have online, you have blogs, you have social media, you have that radio, satellite radio, not just regular radio, but now you have satellite. Plus you have internet radio. So the people who are providing the content are becoming very, very competitive, and they want exceptional information because they want to attract the viewer or the listener. So what I have found works really well is that if you are going to pitch a media person, if you show them that the person or the idea or the article that you're sending to them has already been picked up by another media outlet, it sort of sets you apart, okay? So a great way to get started with your list, and some people don't think about this, but I want you to think about, first of all, obviously all of your local newspapers and magazines and community publications, even the ones that come in the mail directly to your house. We have here where I live a lot of community magazines that are good news magazines that come in the mail, that are direct mail, that come directly to a certain neighborhood. And if one of those is in your neighborhood, that is a fantastic contact for you. If you live in that neighborhood and you have had something great happen to you, you would definitely want to let that publisher know about that. Along with that are also the newspapers and magazines that are in your grocery store or your libraries or your community centers that are free to the public. They're also, most of the time, good news publications. And what you want to do when you pick up a publication is you want to open it up to that inside page that has their information, their address, and you want to find the name of the editor. Now, depending on how big the publication is, the editor might be the person who makes the decision. But if it's a very big community magazine, they may have different departments. And especially in your local newspaper, and your radio station and your TV station, you want to identify the person in the right department for your list. Now, let me share with you a fantastic tip that one of those, I wish I'd known that for myself. When you start your list, I personally use an Excel spreadsheet, but any kind of a spreadsheet that you can use, or if you don't have Excel, you can use it in any kind of a place where you can write notes, like a notepad or anything like that. But you want to have a category for everything, okay? Don't just take their name and their email address, okay? Most people want you to contact them by email now, but do yourself a favor and get, the first time you collect it, the complete contact information, the name of the publication, the type of publication it is, first name and last name of the editor, first name and last name of the different departments of people that applied to you, directly to you, physical address, the mailing address, the email address, their website, their fax number, their phone number. Get all that information and have it at one time, because let me tell you what might happen. This is a really competitive industry, and people move on all the time. So you might, this is May of 2010, you might get a great contact, and then in August of 2010, you might send that email and it comes back as a bad address. So this way, you know that that person has left or their mailbox is full. You can give them a call. You can have it right there. Call them and just say, hey, I was sending some information to Susie Smith, and I see she's no longer there. Can you tell me who's taken her place? Or you can say, I'm trying to send an email to Susie Smith, and her email is full. Would you like me to fax something to you? Something like that. Or something else. If you send an email to a person, to a media person, they pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, we'd like to get some more information on that. And suppose it is a book, and they'd like to see your book. You can say, sure, I'd be happy to send you a book. Is this your address? Blah, 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 blah. You read it to them. You seem so much more professional. You might be really nervous if somebody calls you. You might be surprised and not expected to hear it. So you want to have as much control as you can. So that's a little tip for you when building your media list. Okay, so your local newspapers, magazines with reporters in the correct department. So what I want you to do as you are out and about in your community and you see these things, pick them up and grab them. I'm always doing that for all of my clients. I bring home tons and tons of media. Next on your list, I want you to think about memberships and organizations that you belong to, but also memberships and organizations that are ideal readers of your book or ideal people for your company. Okay? So for yourself, if you're a college graduate and you have an alumni organization that you belong to, most likely they put out a magazine or a newsletter. You want to include your good news in that. If you're a Chamber of Commerce membership, or if you belong to a women's organization or a networking organization, particularly the larger ones like National Association of Women Business Owners or eWomen Network or the Business and Professional Women Foundation, any of those large ones, they send out newsletters. You want to get those newsletters and get that information. Okay, Chambers of Commerce. Oh, now let's go back to my idea on, so let's go back to the stress book. Okay, the book on for women and stress. There are so many organizations that can be targeted with something like that as a speaker, as an author, or even if you're a person who travels around and gives health talks. Okay, what we always do when I work with my clients is I pick one or two organizations to target at a time. You're going to be in business for a long time. Your book is going to be for sale for a long time. You don't have to get to them all at once. So there are a lot of places that you could market a stress book, a stress-reducing book. I might choose the Cancer Foundation or maybe a Women's Health Foundation, or you could even get very, very specific and get into nurses' organizations and just specifically speak to nurses. You could get into teachers, just specifically work with teachers. There are so many little niches that you could get into. Now, going back to the example of the person who's written a book about a dog or a cat, not so many choices, so it's a little bit easier. Obviously, the larger animal organizations, the shelters, the large places, as well as the local places. And then the veterinarian. The veterinarians are a great place. they have organizations and they have publications too, okay? So not just things that you belong to, but things that your ideal client belongs to. That's where you really, really want to be, okay? But you also want to be things that you belong to because it's very easy to get listed in those. And that's a strategy that I use to get you a bigger publication. Okay, for radio. For a newsworthy thing, you want to know who your local radio station is, because that's really easier to get on when you're sort of a community person, and also it's quick to get on if you live nearby. Things can always be done by telephone now, but it is nice to have a local expert to appear on a radio show. But besides that, well, when you do have the radios, you want to find the radio producer that is ideal for your topic. Now, radio's changed a lot, and I'm in a big radio town. I mean, we used to be all radio, but things have really changed now where we have like the one radio station might have a morning show from 5 to 8 a.m., and then they'll have like a mid-morning show from 8 to 11 a.m., and then from 11 a.m. till 8 or 9 p.m., it's a national radio program. And it's, run by somebody else somewhere else. And then there'll be a late-night DJ that's a local person. So you need to know that because it's going to be different producers for different things. If you want to be on that afternoon drive time thing, you're going to be sending it to a totally different person than if it was that first thing in the morning. So you need to be aware of that. Most of this information can be found on their websites. Besides the local radio, there's the satellite radio, and those shows are very, very specific. They're usually by subject, and they're by the same audience. You have the Martha Stewart show, you have the Howard Stone show, you have all sports, you have all health. There's all holistic. There's just anything you can imagine, very, very specific. So you have to research on that, also looking up their producers. So radio, you have the satellite radio of your local radio. Now we have web radio. And you know what? At that point, you just almost need to get help because there's just so much. There's so much information out there. But you want to kind of Google. There are some places where like all holistic radio shows are now listed, and all health radio shows are now listed. But you have to get into the networks of people that are listening to them and really weigh that out as far as how many people are listening. I mean, all publicity is good, but you need to be careful with your time too. So I wouldn't spend the majority of your time building and trying to find new things. What I would spend your time on is building a bones list, a skeleton list of the ones that you know. And then you can always add things to it as you come across them. So please, please do not spend weeks and weeks and weeks researching internet radio shows. What I want you to do is take 2 or 3 days, no more than a week, build yourself up a media list, and then as you come across things, add to them, okay? I hope that helps. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Okay, so that's your radio. And then you have your television. Now, you really want to start with your local television, early morning shows, your news shows. My goodness, guys, there was a time in our lifetime where you had the 6 p.m. and the 11 p.m. news. And I don't know what it's like in your town, but in my town, we have morning news on from 5 in the morning until 8 in the morning. And then we have a noon news, and then we have a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news. And then we have a 10 o'clock and 11 p.m. news. That's a lot of airtime to fill. And I'm not suggesting that they write a story or have you on as, so-and-so has written a book or so-and-so has started a business. Certainly not. That is not what they're looking for. But when things happen in the news, they are often looking for, to use up time, they will ask for expert input, okay? So I'm going to use something that's really obvious and really, really big in the news, and that would be, have you heard of Tiger Woods? Okay, how much have we heard about Tiger Woods in the past 6 or 7 months? And how many times can we hear about it? And yet it takes up the cover of Vanity Fair magazine this month with another large, large spread and lots of information, which again makes it newsworthy. So let's just think about this. What can you say to the Tiger Woods dilemma? Well, if you are a person who is a psychologist Perhaps you could speak to the effects of divorce on children. If you are an attorney, perhaps you're an attorney that specializes in high-end divorce. You can speculate on what could happen. What if you are a person who deals with women and self-esteem issues? Well, there's an angle we haven't seen yet. You could maybe pitch a story to the local news about why would women go out with men that they know are married? Why would they begin a relationship like that? So you need to kind of plant the ideas and give them the story. So think about whatever's hot in the news. And I use that particular example because it's an easy example to pull off of. But think about other things that you can give really credible and helpful information that can spin off of a news story. Other ideas are things that happen in the news all the time. I mean, the news is always reporting tragedies and weather, and these are things that you can pretty much count on being covered in the news. So if you're a professional organizer and tornadoes have hit all over one particular part of the country, your expertise is on pulling things together. And you may be able to give your input on how to pull it together after a storm. You're an expert in that subject, so that would be a really reasonable thing for you to pitch to the news story. Besides that, you can take a tornado and put it in so many different ways. Again, if you're a therapist, you can talk about fears. You can talk about calming anxiety, ways to calm yourself and anxiety. I know a particular woman in my town that's a hypnotherapist that works with anxiety and stress relief. She could certainly pitch off of a story of a tornado or a coming tornado on how to calm yourself after a storm anxiety-wise, how to help your children get through the anxiety of being through a storm. Can you see how that would really make sense? And by the way, this hypnotherapist practices, and she's been in business for this long, and she's the author of 2 books. That's tremendous credibility building news coverage. So these are the things that I want you to think about when you're thinking about pitching to the media. All right, where was I? I think I was on television. So local television producers, they're very, very busy. Typically, they want facts. They will tell you on their website, but a lot of times the television people also want called. They want phone calls. They're doing things, they're doing things by the minute as things develop. So sometimes they want phone calls. A lot of times they want faxes. Do not be shy. Find out what they want and give them what they want. Make it easy for them to feature you. Okay, just two more things. Regional and national magazines. Now, I just mentioned Vanity Fair. So Vanity Fair just did a story on Tiger Woods, putting one of his mistresses on the front cover. It is projected to be one of the really highest selling magazines because of the cover that they did. Now, why did they do that? I mean, this thing is, to me, very, very old news. Well, I'll tell you why they did that, because magazines print months and months ahead of time. I mean, right now, these magazines they're printing and they're developing content for their fall and winter issues. So it is May. If you have an item that's hot for Christmas gifts, you need to be pitching that now if you want to be in a national magazine. I joke a lot of times about the recession that we have recently been through in this country, and the magazines were about 7 months behind. The recession had hit, people started to pull it together and get out of it, but the magazines were still saying, 10 ways to save money at the grocery store. And I thought, they're keeping people in a recession because people think they're still in a recession because that's where the magazines still are. But magazines, the monthly magazines anyway, are not looking for cutting-edge news stories. They're looking more for seasonal and monthly items, okay? Now, we also have like Time and Newsweek, those weekly publications. A great place to get featured in them are in the editorials in the front. People really read that stuff. Things that come out frequently like the New Yorker, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, editorial pages are a great place to be featured. Again, very credible print publications that are always looking for really worthwhile news information. Now, the last thing that I have for you to include in your media list is social media. And I like for you to include blogs that are well-received and well-read by your ideal clients, okay? Including, besides blogs, I like you to include social networking sites. And the hottest ones right now are Facebook and LinkedIn. Of course, that's always subject to change. The first time I gave this talk, Twitter was really, really hot, and Plaxo was really, really hot. They're not so hot right now. Right now it's LinkedIn and Facebook, and on LinkedIn I'd like to see you have a group, an online group in LinkedIn that you belong to. Again, making that specific to people who are ideal for your book. Let me use the example of let's use the example of an architect. If you are an architect, I don't want you to go to LinkedIn or Facebook and join a group of architects, unless your book is how to be the best architect ever, or how to create a marketing plan as an architect. But if your book is actually promoting your services as an architect, then I don't want you there. I want you in a home builders group. I want you in an interior designer group, people that need your services. Okay? Those are the type of online groups that I want you to belong to. Now, how to use those groups is a totally different workshop, but I do want to just, in all things, you want to use them sensibly. You don't just join a group just to promote your service, because that's annoying and that's considered spam. You don't do anything just to promote your service. You have to be genuine. You have to be polite. I know we're all really excited to promote our stuff, but sometimes you have to think about how it looks to other people coming across, okay? So in any of these, I'll give you this last tip. When you're promoting yourself, your tips for dealing with the media, you always want to be polite and not pushy. And I don't think that anyone listening to this call is a rude person or would ever intentionally be rude. But sometimes we just get excited, and I've seen this happen. I've seen really professional people do this. Call up a reporter and say, hey, you need to have me on your show. Like, you need to have me on your show. And I'm just like, oh, please hire me. Please, please. You're doing so much damage. But, people do that accidentally. What you want to say is you want to call them up or email them and say, hey, I've been following your column, and I really see that you are an animal lover and that you really appreciate animals. I want to let you know that I have a book out about animals. I think it's a perfect fit for your audience. Can I send you a copy? Okay, do you see how that's saying the same thing? You just have to tone it down a little bit. Sometimes we lose that. So you want to always be polite, and that's what I mean when I say be polite, okay? Position yourself as a resource, not as a salesperson selling something. What else can I tell you? You always want to be careful when emailing. Oh, please, please don't do this. This is a mistake that a lot of people make when they're starting out. They will make a massive media list. And by the way, you're probably wondering how many people should be on my media list. Your media list can be as little as 5 contacts, and it can be as many as 500. Okay? My favorite number is 25 to 30. I like to go for quality versus quantity, but that's particularly up to you. If you really want to do radio, you can purchase lists of every radio station in the United States from different places, and you'll have their information. So that's a personal decision. And it also has to do with how much time you have to spend doing publicity. But my magic number is 25 to 30. I do have a couple of people who have lists of over 50, but they're the type of people that we talked about earlier. That they have the kind of book or the kind of product or the kind of talk that can go to a lot of different industries that can be easily adapted. Myself, for example, I can do public relations for authors, public relations for speakers, public relations for entrepreneurs. I can go into public relations for attorneys, for chiropractors. I can take myself into a lot of different areas. Some of you are a little bit more limited as to where you can go. So it depends on that. But if you have a media list of 0, I would try to get that to 20 to 25. And I think that's good. And then refine that list. Now, your media list is never done. It is something that you're always updating, and you're always polishing, and you're always perfecting it, just like your business. Your business is never, you don't ever get that website up and it's finished. You're always making it better, right? Your mailing list. Boy, that's really tough to get that contact list the first time started. But once you get it started, you're not done, because what happens, people move, people change jobs, people change their phone numbers. You're always having to kind of keep that updated. Well, the same thing happens with your media list. People do move jobs. And businesses go in and out of business, so you're constantly tweaking that. There are always new things coming up. So really getting it built is the most difficult part and the most time-consuming part. And then if you just pay attention to it and keep adding to it, you're going to find that it's really not that much work at all to keep that listed up. Now, I'm almost to the end of my time here, and I want to share a story with you about how you can use sort of these stepping stones of media of how things can happen, because you never just know. When you're a business owner, when you're an author, you have advertising, marketing, and public relations. Your advertising is when you pay people to tell people about you. You purchase an ad somewhere. Your marketing is your materials that you create to let people know about you, like your business cards, your brochures, your website, your articles that you write. Those are all pieces of your marketing. Your public relations is when somebody tells people about your business and for free, and they do it kind of because it's a nice thing to do, because it's a good thing to tell people. And, that can be really exciting, but that's the one thing that you have no control over. You can put your stuff out there, but you have no control over who tells anybody or who picks it up or who features it. So, public relations is something that they say, we send it out with a wish, because you just never know what's going to happen to it or where it's going to wind up. But let me tell you the story. My first year in business, I represented a client, a solopreneur. I call her a mompreneur. Her name is Lori Morocco, and she lives outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And she is a college professor and a mom. And Lori has 5 children. And a couple years ago, they were very small. And Lori liked to make chocolate pretzels. That was sort of what she called her de-stress hobby. And she would dip these pretzels and decorate them, and they were fabulous. And she could take literally a 50-cent pretzel and make it look like a $20 gift. It was amazing. And she loved to do this. And she loved to do it so much, she sort of started out as a hobby, and then she started selling them. People would buy them for gifts, for birthday parties, for baby showers. And she hired me. She's like, I'm going to take this and see how big I can get it. She and her husband put a commercial kitchen on their property, and, we began to do some publicity and get her name out there. And one of the things that I do for my clients to get them publicity is I nominate them for awards. And I think in September, about 3 years ago, I nominated Lori for a Mom of the Year award for Working Mother magazine. And I just went onto their website, filled out the information, and a couple of weeks later, I couldn't believe it. I got an email from them saying that they were considering her the Mom of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year for Working Mother magazine. And I can remember, I was still working in a home office at the time, and I literally almost fell off of my chair. It was so exciting, I had to hold on to my desk. Well, I couldn't believe it. They asked me to send her pictures, and fortunately, she had a good PR person, and we already had professional pictures done. We sent the pictures in, and you know what? I couldn't help myself. I sent out a press release right away that said, local mom makes finalist for Entrepreneur of the Year. We sent it to a couple of local publications. It got picked up in her local newspaper, and they ran a really nice story. And eventually, it took through December. It took through November. Through December, I think it comes out in January. She did not win, okay? But in November, when I sent that out, she got some coverage in her local magazine, her local community magazine, her local newspaper. That got picked up by Startup Nation, and Startup Nation gave her an award as one of the top 10 yummiest home-based businesses. And when she got that award, that got picked up by CNN Money. And CNN Money is a just crazy big website that a lot of people read. That night that she got on CNN Money, she and I did not go to bed. It was like the Monday before Thanksgiving, and we were up all night. Because what we did not have, what we did not prepare for, was people to ask her if she would wholesale her products to them. And then the day that she was on CNN, CNNmoney.com, she had over 8,000 hits to her website that afternoon. And that was more than she had had in the whole time of her business. Okay? So that night we were up all night, back and forth, creating a wholesale sheet that we could send out in the morning to all the people from across the country who had asked her, hey, I'm a florist, I'm a gift shop, I'd like to wholesale your product. From being covered on that CNN, she got a call from the Republican National Convention in Las Vegas, and they ordered, I don't know, some kind of crazy number, 6,000 chocolate pretzels, because she decorated them like in the colors, and she'll put your logo on the pretzel package. Okay, so from losing a contest, she made it to CNN. And then after that, she made it to, and she really prefers not to mail out 6,000 pretzels. That was a great thing for her, but that becomes not fun. It becomes frantic. What she really likes to do is lots and lots of corporate gift baskets and things like that. Big orders that come to local companies. That's what she loves to do. And eventually, after she got that big thing from the Republican National Convention, her local newspaper gave her the front page on a Sunday paper in January, and it said, I'll never forget it. Well, I have it framed in my office. It says, local mompreneur has a sweet year. And it was a great thing, and it has a color picture of her and her business surrounded by her kids. And can you imagine getting all that coverage from losing a contest? But what really happened was, we started out by getting her in a local publication. And she didn't want me to write that press release, but look what it brought her. So keep that in mind. You just never know what's going to happen. I hope that this has helped you. I did stretch it out a little bit more than the 20 minutes, but I hope that you had some great information. You will receive a recording of this call, and I am going to be doing a free teleseminar once a month, so watch your email for an announcement. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Beth Caldwell. If you'd like to learn more about me, you can visit my website, www.bethcaldwellpublicity.com. Have a great night. Thanks.